next segment, テレビを見てはいけません. So now you're being a strict parent telling your child not to do those things from the cues in part 2A. So before we were doing テレビを見てもいいですか? And now you're saying テレビを見てはいけませんよ. Okay? わかりますか?
はい。
はい。はい。じゃあ、アンバーさん、1番お願いします。
We're on 3A.
Yeah, 3A, and you're doing number 1, which is on the previous page, actually.
Okay.
Right, タバコを吸ってはいけません. Okay, so the pattern here is the te form, right? はいけません. And remember that this is the particle wa here. This is a grammar structure, not just an idiom. Okay, so ではいけません. じゃあ、トリマさん、2番お願いします。
窓を閉めてはいけません。
窓を閉めてはいけません。いけません。はい。窓を閉めてはいけません。So you're not allowed to close the window. I don't know why, but okay, 3番。
ペンを借りて
What are you looking at?
Yeah. Oh, he's looking at C. He's looking at part 2C, I think.
So, which one was I on?
3番。
So,
朝シャワ
シャワーを How would you say that?
ー浴びてはいけません。はい。朝シャワーを浴びてはいけません。はい。じゃあ、ヘイリさん。
遅く帰ってはいけません。
はい。いいですね。じゃあ、ジョーさん、5番。
友達を連れてきてはいけません。
はい。
Not allowed to bring your friends.
はい。じゃあ、6番、どうぞ。
音楽を、let's see if I can read my writing. Oh, right. 聞くはいけません。
テフォン。音楽を
聞いてはいけません。
はい。音楽を聴いてはいけません。はい。じゃあ、7番、ビージーさん。
夜出かけてはいけません。
はい。8番、キャシーさん。
パソコンを使ってはいけません。
はい。じゃあ、9番、アンバーさん。
自転車を借りてはいけません。
はい、いいですね。質問がありますか？
いいね。
はい。じゃあ、Part B. Tell the class what we can and can't do at school and at a place you live. So, ドリーマーさん、example を読んでください。
Can't read it in my life. 長時間で
That's 学校で。
Where? 1C? The
Part
example?
B. Part B, the example.
学校でタバコを吸う Man, I'm like tongue-tied. 学校でタバコを吸ってはいけません。
はい。学校でタバコを吸ってはいけません。
Now, if only they reinforce that here.
はい。いや、学校でタバコを 吸っ
吸って
ては
はい
けません。はい。OK。次の example、センルンさん。
ホストファミリーのうちで朝シャワーを浴びてもいいです。
はい。So now they're letting you combine. You can state a rule either that you're not allowed or that you are allowed. Okay? So those are examples of the kinds of things you can do. Okay? And so I want each of you to just come up with one example that someone else hasn't already stated. Okay? So starting with Haley.
大学生でパーティーをしてはいけません。
Okay. Did you mean 大学で? You said 大学生で.
Yeah, 大学で。
Okay, 大学で.
Yeah, you cannot party in a student.
Right.
That's also true.
Yeah.
She's not wrong.
大学でパーティーはしてはいけません。
はい。
Okay. はい、いいですよ。じゃあ、ジョーさん。
ホストファミリーのうちでテレビを見てもいいです。
はい、テレビを見てもいいですね。はい。
大学で、英語を話してはいけません。
Okay. 大学で英語を話してはいけません。Okay.
Reminds me of that story about how no one could speak in
はい。
English.
じゃあ、イーズさん。
シャワーでテニスをしては
You cannot play tennis in the shower. It's so true.
面白いですね。じゃあ、カツさん。
うちでお酒を飲んではいけません。
はい、いい
Right.
ですね。はい、especially because you're too young. じゃあ、アンバーさん。
なんかクラスにタバコを吸って
は
Oh, sorry, はいけません。
Okay. クラスの中で instead of 中クラス it's the other way around. クラスの中でタバコ吸ってはいけません。Thank God.
What is no naka again?
の中 is inside of.
Oh, right. The
So
directional
ク
thing. I
ラ
almost
ス
forgot.
の中でタバコ吸ってはいけません。
For some reason, I was thinking it was like a type of class. I don't know what's going on.
はい。じゃあ、トリマさん。
うちで過去を休んではいけません。
Okay. 学校休んではいけません。Not allowed to skip school. はい。じゃあ、サンドンさん。Can you come up with one also?
クラスの中で寝ていません。
寝てはいけません。
You cannot sleep in class.
はい。
I have
ありがと
I have a grammar question that
はい
I think is related to this.
う。はい。
So by taking wa with the
はい。
te form,
Yeah.
aren't we kind of like turning the like action itself into the subject of the sentence?
Basically, yeah. That's what this structure is doing.
So why are we not having to use koto at all? Like if you want to say like what's the thing you want to do the most, you could say ichiban shitai koto wa. Like you need that
Yeah, that's a
koto.
different, yeah, koto takes a different structure, it doesn't take te form.
Okay.
Yeah,
So in-
that's another way that you can say such and such is not allowed, that will come later. But since they were introducing te form in this chapter, they chose to introduce this structure now. That other structure with koto comes much later.
So with the te form you don't need koto.
Right, you don't need it.
But is this the only form you use
It's-
te wa like this? Like te form?
Te wa, yeah, te wa ikimasen and te mo ii desu. I can't think of any others where the te form is the subject of the structure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just sounded similar in my head.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is going to be te form, particle wa, ikemasen. And note that ikeru, ikemasu, ikemasen, that is a conjugation from the verb iku. which you guys already know. But ikeru is to be able to go. Okay, so it's basically saying, like, it's an idiom, right? So in English we would say, yeah, that won't fly, or that's a no-go, right? It's
Right.
kind of that kind of a structure in
Yeah,
Japanese.
you can't go Tennessee.
Yeah.
Not
Okay,
in the shower.
いいですか？じゃあ、じゃあ、パート C。OK、ヘイリーさんとジョーさん、A と B の example を読んでください。
図書館で電話をかけてもいいですか？
はい。
はい、電話をかけてもいいですか？いいえ、電話をかけて、はい、いけます。
かけてはいけません。Yeah, everybody's having a hard time today with that.
I've been up for a long time today.
Yeah. Okay,
See,
so.
it's hakemasen, so that's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wa ikemasen. That's why I put it out on the board separated like that, because if you see it with the gaps, it's easier to remember that that's the
Wa.
particle wa. Unfortunately, they don't type it that way. So, okay, so 図書館で電話をかけてもいいですか? So, depending on the rules of that particular library, はい、電話をかけてもいいですよ。or いいえ、電話をかけてはいけません。Right? はい、じゃあ、ジョーさん、1番、ザックさんに聞いて。
飛行機でタバコを吸ってもいいですか？
いえ、タバコを吸ってはいけません。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ、ザックさんとビージーさん、2番。
クラスで寝てもいいですか？
いいえ、クラスで寝てはいけません。
はい、じゃあ3番、カシさんと
ここでカフェを
コーヒ
ここでコーヒーをwhat is the structure? Oh. 飲んでもいいですか？
ー飲んでもいいですか？
飲んでもいいですか？
はい。飲んでもいいです。
はい、いいですよ。じゃあ4番。
図書館で話してもいいですか？話してはいけません。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ5番、どうぞ。
図書館で、
いや、はい。
図書館で食べてもいいですか？
はい、鳥山さん。
いいえ、食べては、I want to say hakemasen. That's what I want to say when I
I
see
know.
it. いいえ、食べてはいけません。
いけません。There you go. はい、じゃあ次、6番ですね。3番。
学へ犬を連れてきてもいいですか？
はい、犬を連れて
連れてきて。
連れてきて
What's the ending?
です
連れてきてもいいです。
連れてきてもいいです
or 連れてきてはいけません。I'm not sure what the rules are on this campus, but okay, so 犬を連れてきてもいいです。For example. じゃあ7番どうぞ。
あなたの国で18歳の人はお酒を飲んでもいいですか？
いいえ、飲んではいけません。
はい、いいですね。わかりますか？
はい。
質問がありますか？はい、じゃあ次、パート4見ましょう。朝起きてコーヒーを飲みます。So this is what we were talking about the other day, that you can use te form to do sequential verb sequences. You know, somebody's doing this, then this, then that.
So you can do more than two then?
You can do more than
as
two.
long as the
yes.
last one doesn't end in te and it's conjugated.
Right, the last one has to be conjugated correctly, and remember that whatever that conjugation is at the end of that sentence applies to all the verbs in the sentence. So if you want them to be different in terms of tense or whatever, then you would have to split it out into separate sentences. Okay, so if you're okay with it being, my plan is to do this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this, you can have 6 verbs in that one sentence if you really want to. Hai.
What about sorekara?
それから
Yeah, sorekara.
それから is and then, and that is a sequence word that starts a new sentence. So if you want to say that I'm going to do this and this, and then I'm going to do this and this and this, you can use それから to start the next sentence. Okay? So if you don't want it to be like a run-on in English,
Right.
you can split it and have 2 verbs in this sentence, それから and then a couple more verbs in this sentence, そ
Right,
れ
like
か
I
ら
walked my dog and then I went to
Yeah.
work. Can you do it like that?
Sure. Yeah, so 犬と散歩をしました。それから学校 or 大学 or 仕事に行
So
きま
that's
した
2 sentences.
That's 2 separate sentences.
Right. You
Yes.
can't do it as one. You can't use.
Well,
Well, you
you
could.
wouldn't put それから in there if you wanted it in all one sentence.
So it'd be
You
inu
could
wa
do
mite?
犬
Do you understand
To-
what I'm asking?
犬と散歩して仕事に行きました is the sequence, but without それから
Okay.
You can say I walked my dog then went to work all in one sentence, or you can say I walked my dog, period, and then I went to work,
That's
second
my question.
sentence. Okay, so you can do it both ways, but you can't fuse the それから into the sentence that uses chef form.
And you can't make sentences
Also.
like I walked my dog and I'm going to go to work.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. With the take form structure. at least.
Yeah, you would need something else in there to indicate that I did this and then I'm going to do that. Or, yeah, probably in that case you would switch it back to what Dreama was saying, 犬と散歩をしました. それ, yeah, and then instead of それから you'd probably use 今から仕事に行きます. Starting now, I'm going to leave for work. Okay. じゃあ, okay, so let's look at the pictures below, and we're combining these using the TEV form to indicate this sequence of events. So let's see. じゃあ、ヘイリーさん、example を読んでください。
朝起きてコーヒーを飲みます。
はい。じゃあ、ジョーさん、1番。
テレビを消して出ます。
OK、テレビを消して出ます。
出ます。
出ます。はい。テレビを消して出ます。or テレビを消して学校に行きます。It kind of looks like she's leaving for school. She's got her backpack on.
Oh.
Okay, so you could make a case for either one of those. Okay. じゃあ2番ザックさん。
ご飯を食べて、トイレに使って。
トイレに行きます or トイレを使います。
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Use the toilet.
Yeah, so トイレを使います。
トイレを使います。
はい。
Okay.
or トイレに行きます。one or the other. はい。じゃあ3番、ビージーさん。
お風呂に入って、入って、
はい。
お風呂に入ってデートをします。
はい、します。デートをしま
デー
す。
トをします。
はい。いいですね。じゃあ4番、カシさん。
勉強して出ます。
はい。勉強しています。いいですね。5番、アンバーさん。
新聞を読んでコーヒーを飲みます。
はい。いいですね。And please note that this TEV form structure denotes one thing happens, then the next thing happens. It's a sequence. Later, we'll learn a structure for saying, while doing X, I was also doing Y. So if you're reading your newspaper while drinking your coffee, that's a different structure that we haven't learned yet.
Does it use the word to though?
No. To only joins nouns. You cannot use to join anything
Okay.
larger than a noun. Okay, so phrases don't work with to. Okay, part B, changing the font into te forms and make the rest of the sentence. So let's hear the example. So that's going to be, Furima-san, I think it's your turn to read the example, am I right?
朝起きて新聞を読みます。
Hi. Okay, so here I think what they're expecting you to do is they're giving you the first half, which you have to turn into te form, and then you can end it with whatever you think belongs on the end there. Okay? わかりますか？
はい。
はい。じゃあ、サンドンさん1番。
そう、友達のうちに行
行って
映画を見ます。
There you go. 映画を見ます。はい、that works. 2番、ヘイリーさん。はい、映画、movie.
Oh,
映画を見ます。So he's going to his
Oh.
friend's house and watching a movie.
why did I hear Egel?
Watching
Yeah.
Watching English. That would be weird.
映画を見ます。
はい、映画を見ます。OK。じゃあ2番、ヘイリーさん。
うちに帰って寝ました。
はい、there you go. Very good. She changed the tense on us. She said she went home and slept. Notice that the tense applied back to the te form also. Okay.
I just forgot about that.
ジョーさん、3番お願いします。
店長降りてデパートに行きます。
はい、いいですね。電車を降りてデパートに行きます。はい、4番、ザックさん。
I'm trying to remember what owl means though.
To meet.
Okay. So, 友達に、会って
はい、
友達に会って、食べます。
OK。Yeah、友達に会って一緒に食べます。You meet your friend and then you eat together, right? イージーさん、5番。
風呂に入ってベッドで寝ます。
はい。はい、お風呂に入ってベッドで寝ます。Yeah. As opposed to falling asleep in the tub.
Yeah.
はい、じゃあカシーさん6番。
大学に行って先生を聞きました。
はい、いいですね。は
I have a question.
はい。
So you can end in mas and,
ました。
and whatnot, but can you end in mashol for these too? Or would that be kind
Yes,
of
you
weird?
can.
Okay.
Okay, so like for example, 友達の家に行って晩ご飯を食べましょう. You could be telling your brother, for example, let's go to our friend's house and then eat dinner.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you can still use mashol. Okay.
Yeah, you can still use mashal. That works. Yeah. Yeah, or you can, you could be suggesting to somebody
Mm-hmm.
2 activities you're going to do together.
Okay.
I don't know, レストランに行って食べましょう。or 映画を見て、
ね、踏みましょ
アイスクリームを食べましょう。or 寝ましょ
う。
う。
寝ましょう。
寝ましょう。
That's what I was going for.
Can you end it in the tape form too? If it's like a long request, like if you want to say 教科書を読んで宿題をして like a,
勉強し
read the book or then 勉強します like so
Yeah.
read the book then do your homework
Yeah, yes.
It's
So
not
it's like
limited
two
to, right?
commands.
教科書を読んで、宿題をして、勉強してください。
okay
Yeah, something like that. So you can end it with kudasai if the whole thing is a request. So I'm telling you, please read your textbook, do the homework, and study.
okay
Okay.
Yeah. So you can do that. Yeah. Just be aware of, there's only so many directions or requests you can put in one statement before people start to lose track of everything you wanted them to do.
Yeah.
So just, it's not a human limit to it. The grammar isn't necessarily limiting you, but,
that one poet
You know, I know that with my
Paragraph
3-year-old, I have to make sure I don't make too many requests at once, or she loses track of what she's supposed to be doing.
Wait, do you actually talk to your 3-year-old in Japanese?
Not very often, but she's got bits and pieces of it.
Nice.
They like to watch Totoro in the original.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they can do ichi-ni, ichi-ni. Cracks me up when they do that one. Okay, so let's look at part C. Ashita no yoru. Okay, so let's see. Kasi-san to Amba-san, A to B, example を読んでください。
明日の夜何をしますか？図書館で勉強して家に帰ります。
はい、いいですね。So,
One a night.
yeah.
Yeah.
図書館で勉強して家に帰ります。Yep, she's very studious. Okay, じゃあ1番。Okay, so Amba-san, you're going to ask the question, and Urima-san is going to answer.
今日の夜何対して
何を、
何をしますか？
はい、何をしますか？
晩ご飯を食べて寝ます。
はい、晩ご飯を食べています。はい、いいですね。じゃあ2番、you're asking the question, Senna-san, you're going to answer.
明日の朝何を食べて、何を食べますか？
Okay. 明日の朝何を食べますか？
How would I say I'm gonna eat eggs?
Ah, tamago are eggs. So tamago. Tamago. And then,
を食べて、
はい、卵を食べて. There you go. And then you need to make a te-form sequence, right? So 卵を食べて, and then what? 卵を食べて.
大学に行きます。
Okay, 大学に来ます.
Okay, just out of curiosity, what is bacon then?
Bacon.
Ah, so it's just a little word.
Tamago?
Tamago is eggs.
Tamago.
Tamago.
Okay.
はい、tamago. Yeah, I think the tama in tamago is something that means round, and ko is child, and it shifts to
Sphere
Well,
child.
Yeah, I'm eating a round child.
Sphere child.
That makes sense.
yeah, tamago. Yeah. Okay.
Well, wait, in the example then, what was the question? Nani o
Oh.
shimash?
Yeah, it should be nani o shimasu ka. Dreamer changed it to nani o tabemasu ka, but that assumes that he's going to eat more than one thing, like tamago tabete, and then when that's done,
この
Could you-
どうせ
hono,
コーヒーを
kohi o nomimasu. Yeah, something like that.
If you were listing, this is like just something I noticed. If you were listing just the items you would use to, right? Sometimes I hear toka.
Toka is
Is it like in?
things
they don't
like,
have the in? Like.
yeah, it's more like things like blank and blank and blank. It's not it's not a complete list. They're just giving examples.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so ashita no asa. Okay, so kino no asa, you're asking that one. Senbun-san.
昨日の朝何をしますか？
Shima, it's kino, which
Kino.
means
Yesterday?
yesterday, so nani o
何をしましたか？
nani o shimashita ka? はい。
図書館に行って勉強しました。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ4番、平二さん。
昨日の夜何をしましたか？
大学に行きまして、いて、
行ってな。 last night. They say yesterday's night,
うん
right? 昨日の夜、大学に行ってテニスをしましたね。じゃあ5番お願いします。
今週の
週
週末は何をしましたか？
What's 週末？
週末 is weekend, and 今週 this week's weekend, I think because we're closer to Friday than we are to Monday, we would assume that this is going into the future. 今週の週末、何をしますか?
Oh, so it would be
Yeah.
this weekend as opposed
This
to
coming
last.
weekend, yeah.
Okay.
今週の週末 to me sounds like we're talking about this coming
And
weekend.
this, the next one's Senshu no Shimatsu. So
Yeah,
it makes
先週の
sense.
週末
Which
would be last
So it
weekend.
makes sense.
Yeah. So 今週の週末、何をしますか? Okay, you're asking future tense here.
Okay, I'm just trying to remember. Okay. So uchide or is it uchi ni?
No, uchide, because it's going to be an action, right?
Right.
So uchide is
I was
more like-
thinking about doing like something in home, at home.
Okay,
So
so
uchi ni?
what's the action?
A soul binde?
遊んで、
遊んで？
うち
Oh,
で遊んで、はい
うちで遊んで、寝ます。
はい、うちで遊んで寝ます。Okay, so
remember
the test for whether it's ni or de here is, because uchi could take either one, right?
Yeah.
So how do you know?
De
Uchi ni
is if it's happening
行
inside.
く、
Right?
来る、
It's moving.
Oh,
帰
right.
る、right?
And there's for
Uchi
everything
de-
else.
Any action. Okay. Uchi ni iru would also be
Iru?
iru as in just being at home, just existing at home.
Oh, right.
You're
right.
just sitting there not doing anything. Iru, right? Uchi ni. So if you're trying to say, I'm just going to stay home and sleep, uchi ni te nemasu. You're not doing much. Okay, but uchi de asonde nemasu. I'm going to play at home, do something fun at home,
Yeah.
and then sleep.
I think I'm blanking on everything except the kanji for some reason today. I don't know.
Okay. じゃあ、let's see. Okay, 6番質問。リーズさんに聞いて。
Okay, so I remember that right. Senshuu no shumatsu.
はい。
Nani o shimashita ka?
はい。何をしましたか Because it's past. はい。
友達の家でテレビを見て、食べに行きました。
はい、いいですね。はい。OK。いいですかはい、友達と食べました。Yeah. Yeah, they haven't learned 食べに行きました yet.
食べました。
食べました。OK, or
You should pick a
レストランで
lot
食
up
べ
in,
ました。
what, 3 weeks?
OK、じゃあいいですか質問がありますか ?OK、パート5、勉強します。明日テストがありますから。Okay, so here's where that kara word comes in, and I want to clarify something because they define it as because in your textbook.
But it goes
I don't-
after the action.
Yeah, I don't like that definition because of where it goes, okay? So read me that example again. I want to write it up here.
勉強します。
Okay.
明日テストがありますか?
Okay.
ありますか?
そうします。
勉強します. Okay. Period. 明日
テストが
あります
テストが
ありますか?
ありますから. Okay, so if we're going to translate it in an order that makes more sense in English, I'll study, right?
Yep.
Okay, tomorrow there's a test, right?
Yeah.
Because.
That's why. If you put because over here, that's confusing, right? Tomorrow there's a test because, huh?
So it's
But if you say, I'm going to study, tomorrow there's a test, that's why. That's why I'm going to study. Make sense? Doesn't that help?
That it does.
Okay, so now you're looking confused probably because your other textbook taught you the other way around.
well, in my brain, I hear it backwards. I hear
Yeah.
because there's a test tomorrow, I'll study.
Yeah.
That's what I.
So
The backwards
so
thing,
that-
period thing.
Okay,
It's more
this
like I
whole
think-
phrase, this whole thing can come over to here. Okay? 明日テストがありますから勉強します. That is actually the more traditional structure in Japanese, but not everyone
Uses it.
uses
that
it
way.
anymore. This sort of backward structure, front-loaded structure, is a sort of common slang structure that a lot of people use conversationally. I think the reason they taught it first, because they do introduce the other version, I think in the next chapter, but I think the reason they taught it this way first is the mistaken impression that this order was somehow easier for English speakers. I don't think it's necessarily easier to learn this one first and the other one second.
Especially if you're making the kaha equivalents because.
Yeah, so I think this was just, they thought they were teaching you guys the one that would be easier for you first, and then teach the more complicated one
Or
later.
maybe they're teaching the most commonplace one? It depends on when
I
this
don't
is
think
written.
it's that much, I don't think this one's more commonplace than the other. Right.
I'm looking at this, like, I don't ever see when you would use dakara, ever. Like,
Dakara?
because isn't it included in the, into the,
Dakara is like,
would that be the start of the sentence?
it can be. Dakara can be a connection between two sentences.
Is it
Da
des?
is the short form of des. So if you think of a sentence that's ending in des, kara,
So
That-
dakara is also.
yeah, so for example, 学生ですからたくさん勉強します. So-and-so is a student, therefore they study a lot. Okay?
So,
So it's going to be a noun plus des kind of structure or an adjective plus des kind of structure that takes dakara.
but you couldn't do it in this form and say,
You can't do it here because there's no des.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, you can't say,
So dakara
can't-
is a slang form?
you can't flip what you just said for the example
Not quite.
backwards.
明
Because
日テストがありますから勉強します。or 勉強します。明日テストがあるからありますから。Yeah, だから doesn't fit here
I was,
just because of the grammar of the two sentences involved.
I was talking about the student example you said out loud. Like, you couldn't say,
Yeah.
たくさん勉強します。だから学生。
No, because you're putting the cart before the horse
いや、それ
there.
学生だから。
学生だから
And that's the
た
same
くさん
as
勉
this
強し
form.
ます。Yeah,
You could just end it 学生だから if you
Yeah.
started with たくさん
yeah.
勉強します。
たくさん勉強します。学生だから。
So it's the same thing. Okay, I
Yeah.
get it. Same thing.
たくさん勉強する。学生だから。
Ah.
Yeah, or, somebody says to you, わあ、たくさん勉強しますね. And you say, 学生ですから. Because I'm a student, duh,
Yeah.
Okay, but that's getting off track a little bit. We'll get into more of that another time. But you were starting to ask, is dakara slang? It's not slang exactly, it's short form.
So a contraction.
No, not short, not contracted form. Short form is a technical term that Japanese uses to mean not the des mas forms that we've learned thus
So
far.
like casual speech? Or-
Casual speech, that's
Okay.
it. Short form is sort of synonymous with casual speech.
Okay.
But just in terms of how conjugations go. Because conjugations of verbs and des and adjectives, when you do the casual version of them, they all end up shorter than the formal version of them. So short form is another word for casual form.
Okay.
Different textbooks use different terminology. and I have used too many textbooks over the years, so in my head, they're interchangeable. Short form, casual form, same difference. You know, they're not really interchangeable, but they feel like they should be. Okay, but do you see how that works? So I don't really care which of these structures you use. If you want to say, 勉強します、明日テストがありますから, or if you want to say, 明日テストがありますから勉強します. Either one is correct. When you do it this way around, it usually gets counted as all one sentence. This period would disappear. Okay? When you do it in this order, it's two separate sentences. Maybe that's why they thought it would be easier. I don't know. But either way, they're both correct grammatically. So if one structure is easier for you than the other structure, feel free to use the one you prefer when you're the one writing it down. However, be aware that because this is the form that they're teaching in this chapter, they're going to be putting it in this order in this chapter.
Okay.
So you kind of have to at least recognize this order, even if when you're writing it down, you prefer to write it the other way around. Okay? But it's okay with me if you do a hybrid. Okay? Just make sure that whichever one you do, the kata is in the right place. And just like with no, it's easy to get the two parts backwards. So you got to be aware of which one's which. That's why, as a translation, when kara is coming at the end, because it helps you understand where the kara belongs and which sentences belong where, right? I'm going to study. Tomorrow there's a test, that's why. Or tomorrow there's a test, that's why I'm going to study. Right? If you're putting it that way, you can also do therefore. Tomorrow there's a test, therefore I'm going to study. That translation also works, right? If you're doing 明日テストがありますから勉強します. Therefore works there, but it doesn't work as well when kata comes at the end. Right? So I don't remember which student I should be giving credit to, but it was one of my students years ago who came up with the that's why translation as making more sense in this context. And I've been using it ever since because it's brilliant. That really helps you understand what the heck kata is doing in the sentence.
So even if it's the other way around with the therefore example,
you could still use that's why.
Kata still ends the first sentence, right?
Kata ends this segment, which actually becomes just one clause of a complex sentence. When you put that over here, there's no period here. It's all one sentence.
So you can actually use the Moss forms twice if kata is, because I
Yes.
think of short form as.
This would count as an independent clause.
Okay.
Yeah. So kata can actually connect two independent clauses to make one big sentence. Yeah. 明日テストがありますから勉強します. There's a test tomorrow. That's why I'm about to study, or I'm planning to study, or I'm going to study. Yeah.
So is
or, sushi が大好きですからたくさん食べます. I love sushi. That's why I eat it a lot. Or, 友達がたくさんいますから忙しいです. I have a lot of friends. That's why I'm busy. It could be anything. Anything where you've got a reason and a result, right? The trick is to get them in the right order. If you say it the backwards way, 忙しいですから友達がたくさんいます. I'm very busy, therefore I have lots of friends. That doesn't make a lot of sense that direction, does it?
No.
But you put it the other way around, I have a lot of friends, therefore I'm busy. That makes sense, right? So you got to be careful of the sentence order and which sentence you're attaching kara to. If you say 勉強しますから明日テストがあります. I'm going to study, therefore there'll be a test tomorrow? Yeah?
I'm like an ill-omened test.
It's like, okay, okay, by studying tonight, I'm going to make the teacher give us a test tomorrow. No, it doesn't work that way, in the universe I live in, at least.
One more question.
Hi.
I have heard before that the form of the verb at the end, like the politeness of the verb at the end,
Hi.
carries through the whole sentence. So
It does.
Is it wrong to say ashita testu ga aru kara
Benkyou shimasu?
Is that wrong?
It's not wrong. It takes it down like a half a notch, politeness-wise, but it's not wrong.
It's not like
so-
you're saying benkyou suru at the end.
Right.
Which
What
is
did you
So-
say
not.
again?
So he's talking about if you change the verb that's before kara to aru, short form, and then have benkyou shimasu here.
If you still keep the long form, is it still polite, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, so this, because this is the end of the sentence, this kind of helps to control how polite the sentence is. So changing this to aru instead of arimasu only downgrades the politeness slightly. It's still fairly formal, it's still proper. If you downgrade this one too to short form, then it becomes a casual sentence.
And you can't.
Does that make sense?
and you-
But in terms of like grading it, if this is considered the most formal, this would be like moderately formal, and then if you end this with suru instead of shimasu, then it would be casual. So that's the thing, Japanese has lots of gradations of politeness. It's not just polite or casual. You know, it's very polite, slightly less polite, still fairly polite, but
Neutral.
a little bit friendly or neutral, a little bit less polite than neutral, but still acceptable, casual with your friends, casual with your best friends,
And just plain rude.
yeah. And even within rude, there's like, well, it's acceptable if you're the one giving orders and they're supposed to take your orders, versus talking like a drill sergeant to somebody that you shouldn't be talking to a drill sergeant like, you know?
So,
Right.
but you can't flip that, right? You couldn't say ashita
It-
testu ga arimasu kara benkyou suru.
It sounds a little odd, but it happens. Yeah. It's not proper,
Okay.
but those kinds of mistakes happen in real life.
Oh, so it's technically a
It's
mistake.
technically a
But people use it.
mistake,
Including
but
this.
it comes out that way sometimes by mistake.
Okay, but they,
Okay? So grammatically speaking, you should not have a long form in the middle of a sentence and a short form at the end. It's a little odd sounding. But what happens in real life is, you know, if two people have a formal working relationship to start with, and then over time, they are working together so much, they're also becoming friends, they're starting to spend time outside of work together, then their level of formality sort of downgrades over time as they get closer and closer to one another, until eventually they might be talking to one another in casual speech. In the intermediate stages,
there's weird things.
things
Right.
get weird sometimes, and sometimes, you know, formal speech and informal speech
Hybridize.
mix and hybridize in ways that aren't strictly proper,
Okay.
but it happens.
So the casual in the middle and formal at the end is also a mistake? Or?
No, casual in the middle, formal at the end is considered to be like a moderately formal structure. And there are some structures where casual in the middle is actually required because the short form, the casual form, is what's necessary to attach to certain structures to make certain kinds of expressions.
That's why I love this one.
Just like, you know, well, te form is an example of one of the structures that's required to make certain structures, right? You need te form to make te mo ii desu, te wa ikemasen, te kudasai, right?
Right.
There are some structures that require the dictionary form, where, you know, these forms require te form. There are other things where you require the dictionary form to do X, Y, Z, to make other kinds of statements, or other kinds of things like the koto that you were talking about.
Yeah, I understand that.
So those will come up in later chapters. So we'll get there eventually, don't worry.
Yay!
Okay, some of them in this semester, some of them in future
I was
terms.
wondering if there's a term for I guess the polite language in Japanese.
There are all kinds of terms, but the neutral polite, I don't know a special name for it. People who work with grammar all the time often refer to it as desmas form. But that's more of like Japanese teacher lingo for the structure that we're learning right now. Because we're still working in desmas form, right? But I don't know that that's necessarily the proper term for it in Japanese. It's just what English-speaking Japanese teachers all over the world refer to it as, you know, as opposed to casual form, which is also sometimes called short forms. Sometimes they call desmas form the long forms as opposed to the short forms. You know, desmas versus casual or long form versus short form. But then there are other polite forms. Keigo
That's what it was.
is a big step up from desmas forms.
Like boss big or?
Like, yeah, like talking to your boss, talking to a customer if you're the employee of a company, you know,
That's like the watakushi.
watakushi, that level. If listen to an NHK news broadcast, you'll hear plenty of keigo. Yeah, if you want to hear keigo, listen to, you know, even just Tenki Yoho, the weather report. You know, you'll hear keigo left, right, and center in any kind of news broadcast. So, and you can find that kind of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting back to where we were. Okay, so let's try to do a few sentences with reasons to them. Okay, so all they're giving you is the first half as the prompt, and then you have to come up with a reason that's why. Addition. Okay, so who are we up to? I've lost count.
It's me.
Okay, goes all.
Alright. I have reasons.
Ichiban.
Okay. So, 先週は大変でした。テストがありますか？
テストがありましたか
ありましたか。
ら。
Last week
Yeah.
was tough. I had a test.
はい。先週は大変でした。テストがありましたから。OK。じゃあ、カッシーさん2番。
映画を見ません。よくなかったから。
OK。よくないですから。OK。Yeah, because you think it's not good. Yeah. So, あの映画を見ません。I'm not going to see that movie. Right? よくないですから。Because it's not good. Okay. It's not good. That's why. はい。じゃあ、アンバーさん。
よくあのレストランに行きます。
はい。
食べ物はいいですから。
Okay, 食べ物はいいですから or 美味しいですから would be even more likely. The food is good is very much an English idiom. The food is delicious is more the Japanese expression. 食べ物は美味しいですから。Okay. じゃあ4番。
昨日クラスを休みました。
休みました。はい。
元気じゃないですかい？
Okay, since it's past tense, it would be 元気 what? じゃな
じゃなかった？
じゃなかったですから。
じゃなかったですから。
はい、there you go. 元気じゃなかったですから。Okay, 5番、三分さん。
メリーさんが大好きです。かっこいい人ですから。
Okay, かっこいい人ですから。Okay, she's a good-looking person or a cool person. Yeah. Okay.
Sure, Mary's just your friend.
はい、じゃあ、ヘイリーさん、6番。Let's finish this up.
Okay, so 友達に教科書を借りました。
はい。
And then, if you were trying to designate that they were the person who forgot, how would you do that? Or would you
Okay.
just use the
Well,
verb
you
から?
友達に教科書を借りました。 Kariru is to
Borrow.
borrow, right? So you borrowed it from them.
Oh, okay.
So,
So it would be like wasure te kara. Or would you?
忘れましたから。
Mashita kara.
Yeah, 忘れましたから。
Yeah.
Yeah, 私の教科書を忘れましたから。私の教科書を忘れましたから。
Okay.
I borrowed the textbook from my friend
Because I
because
forgot
I
mine.
forgot mine.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
いいですか?
from way back in the beginning, with implied stuff, you could, the second part could just be
Oh, 忘れましたから. Yeah, you could just say 忘れましたから.
Mm.
Yeah, 友達に教科書を借りました。忘れましたから.
And if they ask,
I borrowed a book from a friend because I forgot.
Yeah, yeah. Or to clarify, you might say something like 自分のを忘れましたから. 自分の is one's own. 自分 means self. 自分の so one's own. So like I forgot my own. That's why.
So why would you use
自分の
jibun no over say watashi?
私のを忘れましたから
So that-
You could use 私のを also.
Is there like a difference in connotation or?
Mine versus my, in a sense.
This one is I forgot mine. This one is like I forgot my own,
Hmm.
kind of. There's a slight difference. This one's, but 私のを忘れました works too.
Which one is more common though?
so just as far as like speaking customs go, is
Hi.
it the same in English where like you might say, "Can I borrow your textbook?" and then you wouldn't say because I forgot one unless they said why,
That's possible.
or would
Yeah.
you just come out with the full kara sentence?
It depends. Just like in English, it kind of depends on who it is you're asking.
Okay.
If you're asking a close friend who's probably not worried about it, they're just going to lend it to you because you asked, right? If you're asking somebody
Like sitting next to you that you don't know.
that you don't know very well, then you might feel like you need to give them more of an explanation so they know why you're making that weird request. You know?
So can jibun no be used for like mine?
In some contexts, yeah.
So watashi no is always safer.
Well, for now, go ahead and use
Watashi
watashi
no
no
is best for now.
for now, because we haven't really studied jibun yet. Jibun makes more sense in certain contexts, but for now, watashi no will work.
Okay.
So, watashi no o wasuremashita kara. Right. Okay, so we are out of time for tonight. So for Tuesday, we're going to try to finish the content both in this part of the chapter and in the
Kanji.
kanji section. So, let's see, did we get through all of the grammar structures?
It looks like.
Mashoka was the only other structure, and
Did
that
we
is
already do
just,
that one?
we've done it before. The difference here is just that they're using it to propose something that where you're helping the other person. You're not necessarily saying, let's do this together. It's more like, let me do that for you.
There's a question in there that confused me with that. They
Okay.
kind of get you on it whether to use, what is the one for all help to?
Tetsudaimashoka.
Tetsudaimasu?
Tetsudaimasu.
Tetsudaimasu.
Yeah, tetsudaimashoka is shall I help you? May I help you? Kind of. Tetsudaimashoka. It's like, can I help you please? Let me help you. But you can use it for other words too, like mochimashoka isn't shall we carry this together? It's shall I carry that for you?
Okay.
Okay. So for example,
I sat
train station.
Ever going.
Crowded train, you're standing there with a heavy bag, and there's a person right in front of you in a seat, and they don't have anything they have to carry. A lot of times the person sitting there will offer, mochimashouka, shall I hold that for you? And they will actually hold it on their laps until one of the other of you has to get off the train. Total strangers will do that for each other in Japanese crowded trains or buses. Yeah, you're standing there like this, riding the bus or something with a heavy bag in your other hand, and they're like, mochimashou ka? And you let them hold it for you, and then when they have to leave, they'll hand it back to you and let you have their seat, you know? Or if you get off before them, they'll give it back to you when you say that I have to get off now, you know? And that's fairly common in the subways and trains and buses there.
It's like, it was really awkward because I remember when I first got there, when we got to the hotel that we were in, it was a bigger hotel, and I had change in my pocket, and I dropped it.
Whoa.
Because you know it's just quieter, first of all. Like it's not as loud as it is here, and like everybody heard my coins hit the ground, and I swear at least 9 people
came
stopped
to help you.
And they started walking towards me, and I was like, "What did I do?" And they were like helping me pick up my coins, and they were like looking for them, and I was like saying thank you 88 times because I didn't know anything else to say.
Right.
I got them.
It surprised me because like here, you drop your coins and people smirk while they walk by you.
Right.
But 9 people like stopped to help me. They were looking like under people's bags, and everybody like. Man,
Yeah.
It was so like embarrassing.
Hey, coin shot.
What did I do? I thought I like broke a custom because they were just walking at me.
Yeah.
It scared me.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, it literally got off the bus from the airport to the hotel. Opened the door, dropped my coins, and there's 9 people like, oh, and they started. It scared me so bad.
That's funny.
If 9 people walk towards you here after you drop coins, you usually
Yeah, you need to turn around.
Yeah. Give up
You'd
your
think they were
coins.
coming to
Yeah.
steal them, right?
Check the rest of your pocket.
Yeah.
That was definitely the scariest moment. Right when I.
That's funny. Yeah.
His mom was laughing at me.
Yeah.
Because she was like, why are you scared? And I was like, I thought I was about to get beat up. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Japan is very
So
different in a
nice.
lot of ways.
so nice, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so mochimashou ka, yeah, or like, you know, total stranger, you're in a sightseeing spot with your friends, and somebody will come along and say, "Shashin no torimashou ka?"
Oh,
and
yeah.
offer to take a photo of your group so that you can be in it too. You know, that
That's
kind of
actually a
thing.
bit more. That's actually a bit.
That's fairly
over-
common even
yeah.
here, but I have also heard occasional stories of somebody offering to do that as a scam and running off with the
Oh
camera.
yeah, there is that.
We were at the Cornerstone of Peace,
Yeah.
the big cemetery, and there was like a school field trip, I guess, with like a
Uh-huh.
whole bunch of Japanese kids, and they asked
Yeah.
to take a picture of me.
Yeah.
I guess it's because I was white.
Yeah. Yeah. They love to get photos with random gaijin. Just, yo, look, there's a gaijin, yay,
They
let's
all,
get a
they all
picture.
pointed at me, and I was like, okay. And then his mom wasn't with me, and it
Yeah.
was just him and I. So we were like,
Uh,
and they just handed me the camera, and we're like this, and I was like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
So then I handed the other lady, and then I thought they wanted me to take a picture of them, and then she's like, and then she took it from me and backed up, and I was just in a picture, and I was like, oh, we're doing it.
yeah.
And he's half Japanese, so like he tried to walk in too, and they just looked at him, and then they were like, and then I guess they,
Yeah.
we don't want you in here, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just really interested in having people who aren't Asian in the photo with them. Yeah, and did you get approached by kids wanting to practice their English on you?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah. One time we were sitting down at
Yeah.
a restaurant, it was in McDonald's, and like this big, it was, I think we were in, not in Okinawa still, but it was this big, like, the old Chinese temples and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And we were sitting down at a McDonald's to eat, and like dealing with this pigeon that kept trying to land on the table. And, which also everybody pointed at the sign that said in English, don't feed the pigeons. They kept pointing at it like I was
Right.
going to feed the pigeon. Right, but then a kid came over and he like didn't want to sit down, but he just like started asking me something, and I had no idea what he was trying to say in English because it was
Yeah.
like completely broken.
Yeah.
So I just picked like 2 words and just assumed he was asking me a question and just guessed, and he was like super happy for like 5 seconds, and then he just walked away.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of Japanese kids want to just practice their English